The Raiders thought they were close to contenders, so they went all in, trading for Davante Adams, signing Chandler Jones, and things just didn't go as anticipated. They have now moved on from Derek Carr, and now Josh and company, they're in year 2, so what to expect in 2023? Well, let's go ahead and talk about that. What's crack-a-lackin'? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know, so go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave this video a thumbs up if you enjoy the content. As always, let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse. As today we're going to be talking about the Raiders. That's my best Chris Berman impression. But yeah, we're talking about the Raiders. We're going to be looking at the roster, the coaching staff, the scheme, and I'm going to give you a prediction at the end of the video on how they're going to do in 2023. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it by starting with the coaching staff. As I mentioned, it's Josh McDaniels and company. He brings in Mike Lombardi. Mike Lombardi's been with Josh McDaniels for, well, quite a few years. Actually, I think Lombardi was with McDaniels for about 3 seasons in New England. But Lombardi's been other places as well, as he was an assistant with the Jets. He was with the Niners for a little bit. He actually he brings a little expertise in a variety of different systems and different schemes, which hopefully maybe comes into play a little bit more this year, because Josh McDaniels very much so just runs the pro style. I say just runs the pro style offense. It's just not like what's sweeping the rest of the league. Why? Zone blocking scheme. Wow. Whoa, love me the spread offense or pro style spread offense. Andy Reid. Oh, Shane Steichen. So it's like those are kind of like the newer and the fun schemes around the league, but you're going to get this more traditional, more pro style. But I think that they can definitely explore a little bit more nooks and crannies when it comes to this offense. But what we're probably going to see most of the time under Josh McDaniels' offense here is going to be a gap blocking scheme. They're going to be using a lot of power and counter concepts. They want to basically just get this blocking to go upfield and have Josh Jacobs just run all over your mama, your daddy, your sister, your brother, your grandmother, hide them all. Josh Jacobs. They want Josh Jacobs to eat. In terms of the passing game, it's a vast playbook, but it's very adaptable depending on who you have calling stuff in the huddle, and not just in the huddle, but when you get to the line of scrimmage. And I think that's where things fell flat with Derek Carr last year. So McDaniels brings in a guy he's been familiar with over there in New England with Jimmy G, which we'll talk about if Jimmy G, if he will even play for this team. But we'll talk about that when we get to the actual roster. So it's going to be interesting. I think this team, by far, better expectations offensively if Jimmy G is there at quarterback, because then they're going to rely on another Josh McDaniels favorite, Brian Hoyer, and I don't think they want to do that. Defensively, I'm excited for this team. I just wish they had more talent on the defense, but Patrick Graham is a pretty darn good DC in the league. He was a personnel coach for Bill Belichick from 2009 to 2015, and this was during time that McDaniels was the OC there in New England. And much like what we've seen the Patriots do for years now, Graham, he'll often deploy like an odd front, but he doesn't mind mixing up, bringing even fronts and whatnot. And he's kind of actually gone with the flow in terms of what the Patriots used to be, more of this man-heavy scheme, and they've kind of floated more into a bit more zone and whatnot. And Patrick Graham has kind of been the same as defensive coordinator, where he will be a bit more zone heavy. Not to say he won't go into man, he will, but he's a bit more zone heavy with cover 3 and cover 2. And in terms of blitzing, this team's about middle of the pack. He doesn't mind changing it up, bringing in different personnel, getting everyone involved. And like I said, I'm a big fan of what Patrick Graham brings to the table here. It's just I kind of question, do they have enough talent to even be that effective? And I guess that's the part where we kind of get into the roster and talk about it. But first, I want to give a shout out to today's sponsor, Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy is currently one of the most premier fantasy betting apps, and they got a best ball tournament with $15 million in cash prizes. So if you sign up at Underdog Fantasy using promo code Broshmo, they will match your first deposit up to $100. Remember promo code Broshmo when you sign up, and they will match your first deposit up to $100 dues. But as always, bet responsibly, my friends. So getting into the roster, my anticipated starter at quarterback, it's Jimmy G. They signed him to be the starter here. Like, no kidding. He's got a background with Josh McDaniels. It is, however, like, if you can't pass a physical, like, I guess the contract leaves it open to release him. But then who do they got? Nothing. Nobody. They got Brian Hoyer. Yeah, they don't want that to happen. Like, they drafted Aiden O'Connell in the 4th. Like, he's still a rookie. I think, if anything, he'll probably look very similar to Bailey Zappe. Be like, oh, that's not half bad. It's like, that ain't good either. That ain't good either. So, kind of like, they need Jimmy G to be healthy. They need him to start. And I think he will be. He seemed pretty darn confident. So, now looking at this offense, just with the uncertainty, yeah, I give them bottom rank. I'm not sorry. They're good in aspects. I think they go from more of a middle range team with a healthy Jimmy G. But if he's not like that, I feel like it'll torpedo this offense. So it was kind of hard. I think I had them officially at like 26th, 27th offensive ranking. So just without that information currently, I didn't want to assume too much. But I anticipate that this offense will be much better than bottom of the league. But again, that uncertainty, it's kind of hard to tell. But looking at the other starters I have here, and I guess let's start with the playmakers, because obviously they have one of the best running backs in the NFL, Josh Jacobs. Which, hey, I said this during the whole freaking John Gruden era. It was like, freaking use Josh Jacobs. He is freaking talented. And you could expand on, like, this is a guy that at Alabama, he even operated in the slot. Like, he's got to pass, like, a receiving upside that you are ignoring. And to be fair, like, not to say that Josh McDaniels came in and he totally, like, untapped that pass catching upside, but at least they utilized him a hell of a lot more. I'll say that. In terms of the depth they have there at running back, it's like fine. You could like look at the rest here real quick. Like Amir Abdullah, he's fine. He's all right. He's a journeyman at this point, but a good committee back. Brandon Bolden, another guy that's more of a special teamer, but familiar with Josh McDaniels. So that's always nice. As long as Josh McDaniels is in town here, Brandon Bolden will always have a job. And then you have Zamir White, a guy that I wasn't too high on coming out of Georgia in 2022. I know a lot of people really loved him, really dug him, but like I thought he wasn't. I don't think he was that dynamic. I thought he was just kind of mid. Like yeah, he's probably a committee back in the league, but I think that's fine. I mean, we're here looking at him at running back. They have him listed at 4 here. I think he's probably running back 3, but it is what it is. I think that's fine. If long shot to make the roster, I'm a big fan of Sincere McCormick coming out of UTSA. They did draft Britton Brown out of UCLA, but he's more of this big power back. And I think I feel like that's basically Zamir White. So like Sincere McCormick, you get, if you are going to bring in like another running back here. He's a good special teamer. He maybe doesn't necessarily have that long speed because he's a little shorter. So little stubby legs. Like while he's got quick feet, he moves fast. Not having them long strides. Yeah, people might tend to catch up with you. So it's like, again, you don't really need home run speed in the NFL. If you got decent bursts, good quicks, and you could probably you could get yards in chunks, that's fine enough. But yeah, he's probably the guy on the outside looking in that I'm like, ooh, watch out for. They do utilize Jacob Johnson as a fullback here, a guy that was coming from New England, so no surprise. I think I mentioned him last year in my deep dive. I was like, yeah, no surprise that Josh McDaniels brought in a guy like him. Looking at the wide receiver core, stars listed here, kind of no-brainers. Davante Adams, you traded a first and a second for him. He's one of the best receivers in the league. They signed Jacoby Myers, 3 years, $33 million. A guy that could do outside, could play outside, could play in the slot. I think he's a little better in the slot, but Hunter Renfrow, that's kind of his thing. And they kind of got a lot of slot players on this roster when you look at it. I mean, there were rumors they were trying to move Hunter Renfrow anyway, but Jacoby Myers, he's going to play on the outside. That's going to be the thing. And he's a very good receiver. He is. I think he's a quality number 2. And the receivers here are good. Like, even if Hunter Renfrow, they don't move him, like, it's fine. Like, he was in a down year. He was a little hurt. Like, he might not be the most athletic guy. He might not be the biggest guy, but, like, he is a very good possession receiver. He's very good at getting yards after the catch as well. So, it's like, they got playmakers there. A receiver, if you want to look a little deeper on the roster here. Let me move this sucker back over. You got Keelan Cole, who another guy that's he's more of a journeyman, but a good possession receiver. DeAndre Carter, nice long speed. He was actually pretty darn good for the Chargers last year when called upon when they had injuries to guys like Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. Philip Dorsett might not make the roster because he's basically just another long speed guy. And I feel like that's kind of redundant when you got DeAndre Carter. They drafted Trey Tucker in the freaking 3rd. And he might be short and whatnot, but best believe that guy, he's going to be playing return man. Best believe if they want a long shot, they're going to call either him or DeAndre Carter, because those are two guys that they're your speedy vertical threats that also have return capabilities. Philip Dorsett, I don't think, I feel like the position has been filled. Sorry. So, yeah, it's kind of what I think there. So I think probably Philip Dorsett falls out of favor. Or I say falls out of favor. It doesn't make the roster. I think they're gonna the 3rd rounder is gonna make the roster. Like, he's making the roster. So I feel like Philip Dorsett out of there, and I feel like Cam Smith or Cam Sims brings a bit of the same too. So yeah, a lot of redundancy there, but I guess when you're looking at your starters, it's like, yeah, we kind of need a vertical, like speedy vertical threat. So let's sign some guys up, and I'm cool with that. They I think they got really good weapons there on top of obviously what you have in Josh Jacobs. Then you want to go ahead and look at the tight end position, because it's actually kind of a toss up. Who starts and actually who sees probably the most time. And I imagine we're going to see a lot of 12 personnel where they'll have 2 of these guys out here, like Michael Mayer. I think he is the type of tight end that they wanted here. Like Darren Waller, like really good receiving tight end. Probably not up to stuff or not up to the standard that Josh McDaniels wants. He wants these all around very good blocking tight ends. That's why he brings in OJ Howard. People sleep on OJ Howard. Like, he's a really good blocking tight end. It's just he was kind of drafted in the 1st round for that potential athletic upside that he brings as a potential receiver. He had a lot of big like home run shots at Alabama, but he brings in that good blocking. You got Austin Hooper there. We're gonna see a variety of these guys. I think those are your 3 in terms of the depth there. Honestly, not a lot of guys we have to talk about really. So I like what they got going at tight end. I was a big fan of the Michael Mayer pick. He just felt like a Josh McDaniels guy. I think I projected him there a few times when I did mock drafts. So the weapons look good. In terms of the starters on the offensive line, this is who I got. They're it's kind of rinse and repeat from last year, as you have Colton Miller, one of the best tackles in the NFL, very good for the scheme as well. You got Dylan Parham, who I was a big fan of coming out of Memphis, where he played every position under the sun, or everywhere on the offensive line. He played out at tackle. He played at guard. He took snaps at center at the Senior Bowl. I was a big fan of his potential flexibility. I knew he was a good athlete that put on weight too. Going into the Senior Bowl, like he buffed up to like up 30 or 20 to 25 pounds. And it was all good weight. The dude was still moving freaking excellent out, and you just love to see it. However, I will say with Dylan Parham, he's going to be playing or at least he's slotted to play the left guard spot, and that's where I have him. But I think I want to say, like, wasn't his like best games at right guard? Yeah, his best games last season. Granted, it was all of 2 games against Denver and then against the Chargers. We're at right guard, so you kind of I feel like why not have him play at right guard then? He looked more comfortable at right guard. Why are you forcing him in here at left guard? He even had a couple of starts at center last year. But yeah, I mean, I know Andre James is mid, but that's fine. That's fine. You don't need to upgrade Andre James as of yet when you have more pressing needs, like at the right guard spot, because straight up it's gonna be Alex Bars. I think Alex Bars he's not good. He's not great. I mean, he's easily the worst part of this offensive line. But when we look at the depth, there's not a lot of other options. I could think of 1 or 2. Then you got Jermaine Ilminor, who was fantastic last season. He's like coming into his own. It's wild. A guy that feels like he's been in the league for quite some time. Let's see how many years he's actually been in the league here real quick. He's been in the league since 2017. He is not even at 30 yet. So it's like, this is a guy that's got plenty of football ahead of him. And legitimately, like, because things started to click for him in New England. Then he joined in the Raiders in 2021. As we know how things kind of went that season. They bring in Josh McDaniels, and he's like, man, I remember this guy. I like this guy. And he ends up playing really well for him. But when we go to look at the depth on the offensive line, or maybe look at maybe other options, I say at right guard, but I really want to move Dylan Parham back to right guard, since that was like where he was at best, you know? So looking at the other options, Greg Van Roten, journeyman, more of a depth guy at this point in his career. You don't want to start that cat. You just don't. That's just, it just is what it is. Natane Muti was a guy that I was a huge fan of coming out of Fresno State. Injuries have kind of like screwed his career thus far. Like in Denver, he was just never healthy. And to be fair, the few games that he did play, it was kind of up and down. But I was a big fan of him. Dude's just a freaking ox. So I would love to see him compete, but can he stay healthy? I think probably the most likely scenario is Thayer Mumford, who played actually a considerate amount of snaps last season, I believe at right tackle. So I thought he was a guard anyway going into the draft. So go ahead and move him to the guard position. And I mean, screw it. If you're gonna keep Parham there at freaking left guard, then that's fine. Then move Thayer Mumford to right guard, because he was playing on the right side last year anyway. So I think, if anything, Thayer Mumford could be a guy, if they're not dead set on him just being tackle depth for the sake of it. They have guys here that obviously Josh McDaniels is familiar with due to his time in New England, and Justin Herron. I believe he was initially out of Wake Forest when New England drafted him. Ooh. Yeah, Wake Forest. There we go. Look at that. They have Brandon Parker. If you're starting him, you're in dire straits. They do bring in Justin Murray, who spent time with the Cardinals, and he was fine. I would say he's a fine depth piece. So yeah, like, it would be, I think this would be cool if, like, I think this offensive line, I'd feel much better about it if your weakest link is Andre James, because even though he is mid, if he is the weakest part of your offensive line, you feel like your offensive line is in good shape. Looking at Alex Bars, who is I would say a below average starter, you feel a bit queasy. You don't feel good, but you can't really say nothing about Natane Moody, who's been often hurt. Thayer Mumford, who is a second-year player at this point, hasn't played guard in the NFL yet. To be fair, he didn't play much guard at Ohio State either. And then, I mean, Greg Van Roten, who you're basically in trouble if he's starting anyway. So, I got questions. But really, when it came to my offensive ranking, it was a big part of it was the uncertainty with Jimmy G. If like Jimmy G's playing, I think this is a mid offense. I really, really do. But I guess without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the defensive side of things. As here are my listed starters on the defense, and we're gonna start with the defensive line, as Max Crosby is a stud. I did a redraft of, what draft did he come out in? 2019. I did a 2019 redraft. He was the first edge I believe I took off the board, and there were like one or two comments that had a problem with that, and I'm like, this man has been freaking phenomenal. Like, what? Like, what? It's like the Russell Westbrook meme. What? Bro, what are you talking about? Yeah, Max Crosby, one of the best edge rushers in the league. Unfortunately, a lot is put on his shoulders. Chandler Jones, he's more in the decline of his career. So they draft Tyree Wilson, hoping to get a lot from him, get him included in the rotation, a guy that's got a versatile body type as well. And at Texas Tech, played a lot of like inside four tech and over the top of the tackle, so you can actually use them a variety of different ways. Very good run defender, and they really need those. And we'll get to that when we get to the... Well, let's just talk about the interior of this offensive line. They ain't stopping nobody when it comes to the run. You'd be like, oh man, how can you have this as a bottom ranked defense? Because their run defense is soft. S-A-W-F-T. Soft. Little Enzo shout out. But Benal Nichols, easily probably their best interior player. After that, you're kind of hoping some other guys step up. Jerry Tillery, probably more of a third down option because he is terrible as a run defender. He was someone I really liked coming out of Notre Dame because I saw the pass rushing upside. Unfortunately, he's so bad as a run defender, you just can't have him on the field for the early downs. So it's like he's very limited in that regard. So you got to ask, okay, who are other options then that they could bring in? As we'll look at this defense, I feel like I should go more into Tyree Wilson because I think he's gonna play a bigger chunk than a bigger chunk than I'm willing to give him time for. Unfortunately, like freaking length, unpolished as a pass rusher right now, but with how good he is as a run defender, he might be a guy that has staying power on the field. However, when it comes to the interior, they're a bit undersized, to be fair. Really the only bit of size they have is Neil Farrell Jr., who I feel like is more of an explosive penetrator than a guy that is a space eater. You got Adam Butler, who's fine, a guy that has spent time in New England, oddly enough. So someone Patrick Graham's actually a little familiar with, probably more so Josh McDaniels is more familiar with Adam Butler, but he's fine. But still, like you're in terms of run defense, you're probably banking on Byron Young, who undersized but a hell of a player, hot motor, very similar to Fidarius Mathis when he came out of Alabama. You got Matthew Butler, another guy he's basically Jerry Tillery. You're not going to he's a bit undersized, and I got to keep him on the field for running downs, but like he's a quick first step, good length, penetrator. Jay Nesta Severa, maybe a long shot to make the team, because John Jenkins just has staying power. This is a guy you just kind of want on the roster, like good depth, good locker room guy. But I like. Speaking of good locker room guys, Jay Nesta Silvera, great, charismatic, a guy, someone that I think that can keep spirits up on the bench And when you throw him in there, he's going to give everything he has. He plays with a hot motor. I just love the charisma. He played for the Hurricanes for a season, right? Because he spent most of his time in Arizona State, I believe. Right? I might have that backwards. I don't know. It's been long since the 2023 draft. I can't remember all these things. But I like him. I think he's a long shot to make the roster, but I actually like him quite a bit. So I don't know how this team is stopping the run. They're so squishy in the middle, and we'll get to the linebacker core because then it's like, well, who's stopping the run at the second level? But they bring in Jordan Willis. Good. I think he's just a good depth piece at this point. Another guy that's kind of struggled with injuries throughout his career. They got Malcolm Kuntz, who they drafted out of Buffalo. I kind of thought he was overdrafted, but he's a long, athletic guy. And it is what it is. And really, that's all to talk about there when it comes to the defensive front. So it's like, it kind of sucks because, like, Max Crosby, you're kind of banking on Tyree Wilson can be that guy that can have some staying power early as he kind of develops. He doesn't necessarily need to be the guy when you're playing across from Max Crosby. And you got freaking Chandler Jones, like a guy who I know, like, I kind of ragged on him, like, oh yeah, he's out of his prime. He's a declining player, but he was one hell of a player when he was in his prime. And still, like, as an edge too, is not half bad. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a reason why they paid him. But he was kind of inconsistent. He would disappear at times, and having Tyree Wilson there, you can kind of rotate those guys in, or you can even have them all on the field at once, and that can be a scary thing. But it all goes back to they're squishy in the middle. We can talk about the linebackers. My starting linebackers for the squad, you got Robert Spillane. There we go. Say it as one word, not Spillane. Spillane. And Divine Diablo. Divine Diablo, bit undersized. Former safety at a Vatek, baby. And I say Vatek, baby, like I live there anymore. I don't. I hate Virginia, actually. Sorry if you live in Virginia or if you're fans of Virginia. I think the history's cool out there. Outside of that, I think it's a terrible place to live. To be fair, I only lived on the east side. Like the Virginia Beach, Hampton Roads area. Bad news, baby. Newport News. But Divine Diablo, bit undersized, great athlete though. Plays with a big motor. And honestly, like, I don't think he's half bad against the run. I know he was a little banged up last year, so he didn't play like a full season. Still think he had a considerable bit amount of snaps, and no, he actually, he missed, ended up missing like 9 games. But he's a sure tackler. He comes in with a lot of energy. Again, great athlete. Robert Spillane, he's kind of like fine. Like I just talked about, what is it? Andre James kind of being mid. Robert Spillane, he's kind of mid at the linebacker position. So it's like you look at those guys, like, all right, they're fine enough, but still there's not a lot of faith when these running backs or these ball carriers get to the second level that you'll be able to stop them, which will result in big chunks of yards given up. We're talking like 10 plus yards. So it is a little scary. And when you look at the depth at linebacker, it's not good. It's just not. Looking at the guys here, Luke Masterson, I think he actually played a considerable amount because of injury last year, didn't he? Yeah, he almost played 350 snaps. Ooh, he was a missed tackle machine. He almost got. So typically, when you fall in, like if you're above 18 to 20% missed tackle rate, kind of bad. It means you need to work on your technique, or you just need to do a better job of wrapping up and being a finisher. So really, 18%, you kind of like clench your cheeks. Anything above that, it's like, okay, you're just bad. Mr. Masterson, 17.5. So not exactly what you want there. Darian Butler, I actually like that coming out of Arizona State, but he's undersized. Like, he's feisty, but undersized, so another someone not likely to be a consistent run stuffer there. They did draft Amari Burney out of Florida, really good athlete, but someone who was very inconsistent at Florida. He's probably early special teamer while they kind of mold him. Oh man, I didn't even. I totally forgot that they signed Drake Thomas. Yo, Drake Thomas, like, low key, should make this roster. Like, he's kind of, if I'm thinking correctly, because I know NC State, they had a few guys that I liked. I know they had a lot of good guys return, like Peyton Wilson, but I'm pretty confident that Drake Thomas is who I'm thinking of. Let me just confirm this real. Okay, he is. Yeah, no, this was a dude that literally, like, his pressure rate was insane. 49 pressures, 8 sacks at NC State last year. And I mean, at his size, like 6 foot, 238. Yeah, you're not an edge player, so you're going to be having to be playing more off ball. And it's a little bit scary because it's not like I would say his missed tackle rate, it's not bad. It's not great for the position, but it's real mid. It was real mid last year because he's a thumper. He wants to hit hard. And that's how he kind of like makes plays. But he's a very much a minimal gain guy in terms of a coverage player. And if you don't know what I mean by that, I mean, rather than making splash plays, which he made, but like a lot of them were like underthrows, tipped balls. Like they weren't actual. It wasn't him actually going out and like making plays, like showing off ball skills or anticipation or a feel for coverage. It was like right place, right time. But minimal gain guy is a guy that, okay, whatever you get, this like 4 to 6 yards you get underneath, that's all the yards you're gonna get because I'm gonna make the tackle. So probably a guy you hope doesn't start, but definitely someone to watch out for because of that pass rush upside. Like the guy just knows how to get to the quarterback. He really, really does. So you see what I mean? That you don't feel great about this linebacker core. You don't feel good about the middle of this defense. I feel like they can really get exploited in the run game, which will open up things in the passing game, which then things get a little shady because there's some questions about this secondary. Let's go ahead and look at who I have as starters, and I think it's really a coin toss, really. I think your only absolute starters are at safety with Marcus Epps, who played deep for the Eagles last year, and he's fine. He's a nice average starter. He's fine. Trevon Merrick, kind of coming off an off year in coverage. Just needs to kind of get a better feel for it, but a dude that has a nose for the big play. He can be a ball hawk, so I expect him to be better than he was last year. Like, he was good his rookie year. So I think that duo at safety, they're fine. They're fine. They're middle of the pack. I don't think that's a bottom starting duo at safety in the league. However, at corner, it's Nate Hobbs and who? Like, you're fortunate enough that Nate Hobbs, good athlete, good length, good nose for the football. He could play in the slot. He showed last year he could play outside as well. But then it's like, who? Like, I listed as starters here because Tyler Hall was actually really good in the slot for Las Vegas last season. So I was like, you know what? If you're going to put Nate Hobbs back on the outside, then if anything, it should be Tyler Hall because he's probably honestly the best corner, like the second best corner on this squad. I feel like he's trending up. He had a very solid season last year. They bring in Duke Shelley. Duke Shelley, someone who's more of an off coverage guy. Had a kind of a breakout year last season with the Vikings, and it was like he had a pick, he had 11 pass breakups. So it's like, okay, you bring him in, and you're kind of hoping that his best football's in front of him. But this kind of, if you're starting these guys, if your starting lineup there is, as I have it, Shelley, Hall, Hobbs, that's a hell of a small cornerback like trio there. Like, I think they're all under 5'10", 5'9". Like, you kind of lack in size, and that's a bit scary. So I think we're going to see a big rotation of guys here as let's go ahead and look into it, as because they list David Long here as a starter, which could be. I think he's more of a press guy, and I mean, this team will go into press and they will play man, and I think that's fine for a guy like David Long, who's got length, who's got athleticism, just hasn't really put it all together. I mean, so much so that the Rams decided not to bring him back despite their cornerback room being trash. There we go. You also have Brandon Faison, who, strangely enough, is kind of a journeyman. He he was initially with the Raiders under Gus Bradley, followed Gus Bradley to Indianapolis. Now, back with the Raiders. Gus Bradley's still in Indianapolis, but he's familiar with like the scheme. Like they're not similar schemes, but he's familiar with like the coverage. Like a guy that's played a lot of cover 3, it's like, okay, we play cover 3, come in and play for us. He provides another guy that's just a really good athlete. He's got length. Not necessarily the most consistent guy. He's someone that's kind of been picked. Like if he's one of your starting corners, that's the corner you're going to pick on. But there's some potential upside to him. So I could see him getting into the fold here. Meek Robertson's someone that they like, but another guy, again, undersized. So it's going to be interesting. I think we're going to see a lot of these guys. I haven't even mentioned Jacorian Bennett, who they drafted in the 4th round out of Maryland, who someone who he's hella fast. And I think he's okay. Like his tape was solid. I liked him a bit, but I was like, I like him early day 3. Like that's where I like you. And that's where he ends up going. But someone that's probably going to play special teams early, and you kind of hope doesn't start early. Because if he does, it's not going to be good. But then to be fair, there's a lot of not good going on with this cornerback room. A lot of ifs, ands, and maybes. To be fair, they got a lot of guys that could wear a lot of different hats. And just hopefully it's not too predictable for opposing offenses. With like, okay, this guy's out here, they're probably gonna play more. Maybe we're gonna see man coverage potentially, or a guy like Duke Shelley who's probably off zone. It's like, so I don't know. We'll see. It is definitely very interesting. Other guys they have at corner, really no one necessarily to talk about there. We can talk about the safety group, and it's really just special teamers. Roderick Teamer, Jaquan Johnson. Those are just solid special teamers. Honestly, the guys behind him, kind of interesting. Chris Smith, drafted in the 5th round. Like, not a great he's an average athlete who played a lot of deep for Georgia last season, but he's someone who you won't find out of position in coverage. So you like that. Yeah, he definitely makes this roster. You got Isaiah Palomeo, more of a box safety. Thought he could potentially maybe make the move to linebacker, but doesn't look like he could put on the weight because he's like 6'4", and he was like 210 coming in. And I was like, I think he could put on weight. He's more of a box guy anyway. He just hasn't done that. And then they also signed honestly, someone that I kind of liked out of Oregon State. Here, let me move the screen here. And Jadon Grant, who older prospect. Like you look at it, he's like, yeah, he's fine. Don't know if he makes the roster. Don't even know if you keep a practice squad spot for him, but could see him making the roster. Just 'cause I know he could be a good special teamer. So I don't know, it's gonna be interesting. I mean, that's why I have this offense ranked the bottom. There's a lot of as a bottom ranked unit, there's just a lot of question marks for me. And if anything, it's like they're really gonna rely on this offense being good, which I do man, I really wish I could go back. I mean, I technically could. I could go back and redo the overlay for the offense and rank this offense higher than it would be without Jimmy G, because I really anticipate everything's gonna be okay with Jimmy G. I don't know. We'll see. But I feel like at best this team is mediocre. However, at worst, they're probably where I have them in terms of my projections, as you can tell, because we've been in this deep dive, but we've been going through these 5-12 teams, and let's just go ahead and get into my prediction for the Raiders, as I have them 5-12. Let me oh yeah, no, that should be fine. There we go. Yeah, I have them at 5-12. They play in a tough division. They actually have, I believe, the 4th hardest schedule. After I did all my predictions for every team, they ended up having the 5th or the 4th hardest schedule. So their strength of schedule, it's in the top 5 hardest schedules. Kind of sucks. So that's kind of why I have them here at stinking 5-12. I think they could definitely be a better team than this. I think ceiling 8-win team. I don't think they're going to be a competitive team for the playoffs. That's just my call. I know some people are not going to like that. Others, I know that there's some diehard Raider fans out there, but I think honestly, you have a bridge quarterback there in Jimmy G, which is great. That's actually good. If you want to continue with Josh McDaniels, go into this next draft and try to find your guy, quite frankly. But let's go ahead and go with the game by a game. As you can see, I have them 1-6 against playoff teams, and they face quite a bit of playoff teams. We got, straight up, they kind of opened the schedule kind of difficult. Like, the Broncos are typically apparently really good in September, especially at home. Buffalo, that's going to be one of the best teams in the division, or in the conference, excuse me. I think the Raiders are going to be a viable playoff team this year. It's just unfortunate they probably play in the toughest division in football, being the AFC North, though I think you can make argument for the AFC East. Whoops, let me put that back there. The Chargers, I think I have the Raiders going 2-4 in the division, so I have them probably having a home win over the Chargers and a home win over the Broncos. I imagine I'm gonna have them get swept by the Chiefs. The Chiefs will either utterly destroy the Raiders, or they'll have this bonkers close game. There's really no in between. It's either going to be utter annihilation, or it's going to be a game that comes down to the wire. Not a game that maybe it just got ahead of them a little bit. No, it's one of two extremes. This is going down to the wire, or this is going to be a freaking embarrassing blowout. And to be fair, I do think the Chiefs are one of the best teams in football. I think everyone probably thinks that as well. I have the Raiders literally started the season 0-6. Is that right? 0-6? No, 0-5, excuse me. I have the Packers beating them. Listen, I think the Packers are a better team. I really do. I think they got a lot more going for them as of right now. I think it's just going to be tough for the Raiders. We'll talk about the Packers much further in the future here, but Gojo, you having nightmares of those close Raiders-Chiefs game? Gojo, if you don't know, I have a dog, Gojo. He's actually a big Chiefs fan. I'm not a Chiefs fan. Fins up, baby. I'm a Dolphins fan. He holds it over my head all the time. I have them beating the Patriots straight up. I think this could go either way, though. If you think they should beat the Packers, then I would say, hey, then have the Patriots win. I think those are two toss-up games. I think it's more than likely they split those games. I haven't beaten the Chicago Bears. I have the Lions beating them. Then they got to go face the Giants. Dude, they don't get their bye until when? Week 13? You're not going to beat the Dolphins. Sorry, fins up, baby. Dolphins coming off a bye, nonetheless. And it kind of sucks because you look at this, and after your bye, granted, at least you get it at home, but you're getting a Vikings team fresh off their bye as well. So it's that kind of sucks. And to be fair, I feel like the Vikings are in a very similar boat defensively as the Raiders. However, offensively, they're a bit more put together. I don't think you can convince me that Jimmy G is better than Kirk Cousins. Listen, I know Kirk Cousins ain't elite, but come on, guys. Come on. And arguably, both teams have the best wide receiver in football. But the offensive line is much better for the Vikings too. But Nonetheless, I got the Raiders having that win over the Chargers. Then they finished strong. I have them finishing, coming off the bye, I have them finishing 3-2. So they end the season strong, which ideally, probably at that point, you're kind of wanting to tank for Caleb or Drake May, whoever it may be. So probably not ideal, but that's just sometimes how the cookie crumbles, I suppose. I have a lot of teams in this sphere of 5-12. I kind of mentioned this in my last video. I have like the Texans, the Buccaneers, the Colts, the Washington Commanders, all at 5-12. The Raiders, they're included in that bunch at 5-12. I think you could probably make a case that the Raiders should be below teams like, I would say, the Colts. You could maybe make an argument for the Texans. You could argue Washington should be ahead of them, just because you look at a few of those teams, they got better. Their defenses are way more put together, and there's a bit more optimism offensively. Like you look at the Raiders, or you look at the Commanders. Eric Bieniemy coming to town. Sam Howell had a really impressive season finale game. You look at the Colts. Shane Steichen, who was probably the hottest head coaching candidate. You pair him up with one of the craziest upside toolsy quarterbacks we've ever seen in Anthony Richardson. So it's like, yeah, it feels like those are teams that I probably would rank higher than the Raiders in power rankings. But I do this based on predictions and the draft order, and the Raiders would fall ahead of those guys in the draft. But that's where I have the Raiders as of right now. It's kind of a tough schedule. Having to play in the AFC West, it's kind of tough. Having to face the AFC East, it's kind of tough. And then you pair that with who are they facing? The AFC or the NFC North, which, I mean, you got Detroit on the up and up, like Chicago, another team on the up, but not quite there yet. Green Bay, kind of an unknown in Jordan Love. So, and then Minnesota, they're probably going to play the Raiders close, but Minnesota, weren't they like 13-0 in close games last season during the regular season? But that's it for the video. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Let's have that nice, beautiful football discourse. Remember, I'm going to be out of town the whole week of the 4th of July, so I'm actually going to do some recordings beforehand. So you're going to get 2 deep dive videos that week, and you're going to get my running back rankings. So be on the look for that. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.